Guys, welcome to this week's edition of our podcast. It is the week of May 14th. We're here in Timmins, Ontario. Yeah,
Suppose we are.
uh, yes, in fact, we are. We got a loaded schedule here for you guys today on the show. We're going to talk elections in Alberta and in the UK. We're going to talk about C51 again. We're gonna
Probably
touch.
for the last time for a while.
Well, we will see. We'll talk. We'll talk about Deflategate, that whole controversy there, and we'll talk about Ontario's new sex ed curriculum.
Just got a lot of people pissed off for some reason. We'll
Yes,
see, anyways.
yeah, that's true. Some people are pissed off about that. All right, so start off by talking about the elections. Let's go with Alberta first here. What do you think about this
Yeah.
NDP government being elected in Alberta?
So Alberta elected an NDP government for the first time
In
in
44 years.
history. Well, for
Yeah,
NDP,
that's true.
for the first time in history of NDP, and the first time in nearly 44 years that
It hasn't
a
been.
government other than a PC, progressive conservative government, has been in power.
It's pretty impressive. I've heard mixed sides of the story. You got
Yeah.
some people thinking that the province is just going to go to shit now because, well, as most of you probably know, the leading industry in Alberta is oil with the tar sands. Um, and the NDP is a left of center government, which means that they're more prone to support things like climate change, or well, not support climate change. Sorry, support climate change regulation in order to protect the climate. In fact, the premier elect has said that she will be putting in new regulations to regulate the oil industry. So a lot of people think that that's a mistake. Obviously, there's people who think that the other the other way, where it's good that that they'll be finally doing something substantial for climate change. Alberta, there was a meeting with all the Canadian premiers recently, Alberta, about climate change, and the premier of Alberta at the time, the the former conservative premier, did not make the time in his agenda to attend. Um, Maybe there was a conflict. Maybe he had something else he had to tend to. But climate change is a fairly important issue. Uh,
Unless you're
but
talking to, like, Harper or Prentice, I guess.
yeah. So now we have a premier elect in Alberta, Canada's most polluting province, who's going to be willing to talk climate change, to you know to put in substantial measures to um, to fight climate change. What do you think? What do you think? Do you think you're going to see legitimate changes?
Um, I'm hopeful. Like, she's not, like, it's not like she campaigned on, like, anti-oil. I don't want to drill the tar sands. She wants to regulate it. She's against the Keystone pipeline, which is a pipeline going down to the states. She's also against the pipeline going to the west. But I think it's got more to do, which is called, I forgot. Anyways, Northern Gateway.
Northern Gateway, sure.
So I'm pretty sure her main opposition to those are just that it's a pain in the ass. Like, they've had a hard time in the United States. Like, the government that Obama has vetoed it. They've had a hard time in a lot of states trying to get through, and then in BC as well. So she's open to Energy East, which would go through Ontario, and that's what they talked about a little bit in their meeting that Prentice didn't show up for. But she's also talking about some strict regulations and trading it. Just so to me, like like there's like 80% of the tar sands have to stay in the ground. So if at least there's some sort of cap to that system, and she would probably be good to look at ways to diversify Alberta, right? Like, so instead of only relying on oil revenue, which they've seen, I think that was actually a big part of why she got elected, is that Alberta was in a giant boom when the oil prices were up. And now people are losing their jobs, blah blah blah, and there's no plan by the government for the bust of like the fall in fuel prices. So like now, like they hadn't had a provincial tax for like how long in Alberta? Like,
I'm not sure on that one.
right. So like, but anyway, so they had like the 5% federal tax, the GST, but they didn't have provincial sales tax or anything, which I'm pretty sure the outgoing premier instated, right?
I don't know much about Alberta politics.
So I think that had a little bit to do with it, and just that they're maybe ready to see like another government. Like, how crazy is that? What other like democratically elected president or premier, or like anyways any position in a democratic system, like we have like one party for 44 years? I can't think of anything, man. That's intense. Like,
yeah, that's
Putin's
intense.
just celebrated 15 years of being democratically elected leader of Russia.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Harper's been there for a while now, 12 years. Long stands aren't really that uncommon. 44 years, though. That, on the other hand, is pretty crazy.
That's almost half a century. That's almost as long as it's been since the Leafs won a cup.
That's really how you put it into perspective.
It's a long time, man.
One thing I want to mention is, because we're talking about oil and Alberta, the tar sands producing, that oil has to get, well, right now under the current economy, it has to get places. And since 2009, according to the Toronto Star, the amount of oil that travels on train through Canada and the U.S. has went up 28,000% since 2009, and we've seen it here with the derailments in Gogama and where was it, Hornpain as well. That these oil cars that travel by train can cause some serious. I know there's people. There's people still working, environmental engineers still working in Gogama on fixing that. So we mentioned those pipelines. There's debate. Maybe there shouldn't be a debate. Maybe we should not have oil as a primary resource. But there is a debate as to whether building more pipelines will reduce the amount of oil that travels by rail, and therefore might mitigate or might decrease the number of injuries and of disasters and of environmental mess ups, so to speak. What do you think on that?
Well, okay. First of all, like I'll touch like the rail derailments. So yeah, there's been like quite a few lately, especially like in the news since Lac Megan sick.
Yeah,
which was a crazy one. Like it took out like a town center and killed a bunch of people.
That stat that I gave you is since Lac Megan sick.
Yeah. Okay, so it's increased that much.
Yeah.
So like I don't remember. I think actually the driver got charged in Lac Megan sick. He was. I'm not sure, or well, he's probably dead. But like I think they might have said it was a driver error. Anyways, that's irrelevant. But for the problems here, I know the investigation right now is going into like whether the rails were up to snuff, and like because I know a lot of the carts have been updated and all that. But so yeah, so like there's some room to work with, but there's a big issue too with the rails. Well, yeah, because oil is our main resource, it has to be moved. So a lot of times the rail companies don't have a choice as to whether they can trade it or not. But as far as if less oil will travel by train if we build more pipelines. Like we already have pipelines. We were there. Like I don't know if you look at the stats or not, whatever. There's quite a few pipelines already going to the United States. Just I guess like I think obviously Keystone would be bigger, right?
Yeah.
My question would be if we build the Keystone, then like there's plenty of oil reserves in Alberta, right? There's plenty right now. It's whatever. It's dangerous and dirty, but there's plenty. So my question would be like, if you have the pipeline, are you gonna give up shipping it on the train, or are you just gonna do both? Right? You can up productivity and send. You have other ways to do it.
Yeah, but like I don't like what I think is that there's already a bit of a flood of oil on the market. That's why we've seen the recent drop in the prices of the oil companies, or the prices. Sorry, the stocks of the oil companies. I mean, in Canada, we saw the drop even more after the election of the NDP government. In Alberta, but there's been a steady decline of the oil industry for some time now. So the flood on the market of oil, like to me, that would say that they would probably reduce the amount of trains on the rails.
Well, you would think so. Like I think that might even have to be legislated because like there's a flood, like you say, there's a flood on the market. But Shell's still planning to go drill in the Arctic, and they're still like opening up new, and like I'll guarantee you, if they have a better way to get oil out of Alberta, they'll be reopening or expanding operations.
In
like,
Alberta.
I mean the United States. A big reason that there is a surplus in oil is that the United States has like really upped their production, and so has Alberta. And the Middle Eastern countries, what was it called again? OPEC.
Yeah.
OPEC. That where we used to rely on for our oil, like Saudi Arabia and
where the states used to rely on more for their oil.
For their oil, they said, well, you know, we can deal with prices being down a little bit, and we're just gonna keep drilling. The problem is where it's more expensive to drill in Alberta and in the United States. But I guess I don't know. Maybe it should have like more to do with politics and economics. Like they don't want to rely on the Middle East, or is it like?
Well, I mean, I think there's some of that, but they're also trying to. I mean, this is my opinion, obviously, but the U.S. government, with some of the wars they're waging in the Middle East, they're trying to take control of some of the oil there.
Iraq, high in oil. Syria, high in oil.
Exactly. So it's kind of one of those things where it's a bit hard to, like, it's a complicated economy, the oil business. And the United States' main importer of oil, like the place they import the most of their oil from, is Alberta still. So I think that Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries, other countries in the Middle East, are trying to sell cheaper oil to the United States and to other countries that we export to, and that's what's causing our oil prices, or the value of our oil economy, to go down here in Canada.
Yeah. By the way, it costs a lot more per barrel or per whatever to get oil out of Alberta or out of the offshore drilling that's being done on the coast of the U.S. and Norway now, I think too,
in a lot of places now.
It costs because in the Middle East they're
still
doing it
traditional,
the old-fashioned way, so they're just drilling a well and that's it.
Yeah.
Whereas here we either have to like extract tar from like way beneath the earth and like cover like okay, we live in Timmins. You've seen like on the way to South End there's a big pit going on. You can see the big walls now. Like,
On the
so
back
that's
road?
the way you open. No. Look on the way next time you come over or whatever.
Where Gold Corp is?
Yeah,
or
where
what?
Gold Corp is. You can see it's coming up like almost right behind the businesses now.
Oh, in
So
South End.
no, like near Casey's and all that there on the other side.
I'll have to
Behind
pay,
OK Tire and Feldman Timber, all that shit.
Yeah, I'll have to pay attention.
But
next
anyway,
time.
so they have like instead of like drilling into it and going down.
But
they
that's
just
not
make
oil,
they,
though.
No, but they just make a whole pit, right? So in the tar sands, you can't just like you don't just have like a well or whatever. You're literally moving like maybe kilometers of
Oh yeah, definitely.
land and taking out trees, rivers, whatever. And then you're leaving these tailing ponds, whatever.
So
And so
what he's getting
this
to is the
is
environmental.
expensive. Well, the
impact
environmental impact is huge,
and
and
it's
monetary impact is huge as well. So, like, I was just saying that just because like it's that much harder to do, it requires that much more machinery, that much more manpower.
But then again, if the United States is buying oil from the Middle East, they have to transport it here, right?
Yeah,
So that costs.
which is tankers, and I like you don't hear about shit going on in the ocean, but there's probably some
some spills.
That's the other thing. Quick thing I want to say about pipelines: they're not exactly like
Foolproof.
There's definitely there's some pretty crazy stats on how many of them are leaking. The big thing is they're not always huge news stories because it might be a leak that we don't notice or whatever in the middle of nowhere, which is just ends up leaving. But like I don't know. I don't really want to compare. I'm just saying like pipelines aren't like the safe thing when you're transporting that kind of stuff. There's nothing like 100% safe. All right, one question for you that I want to ask.
Me.
Do you think that we really need this much oil, or do you think like if we scale back on oil production, we'll figure out other ways to do things?
Yeah, I think we can figure out other ways to do things. The big thing for me to figure out would be plastic.
Okay.
Like, not energy. I think we can figure out energy all right nowadays without oil. With like solar power and wind power and stuff like that. I think we could figure it out. But the thing for me is that to build those things, solar panels, for example, or even maybe windmills, although I'm sure some of them they're mostly metal, but solar panels are plastic. That comes from oil. How are you going to build that without oil, right? So we can scale back and use it for only things that we need it for, and I think that yes, that is possible, but I think that there needs to be a willingness of the people who own these companies to shift their companies, these oil companies, to shift their oil companies towards a more sustainable product, such as solar panels or windmills. Even then, like I mentioned before, with windmills anyways, and maybe solar panels, there might be other environmental impacts that we're not yet aware of. That, like windmills, some of them have already come up with noise pollution and whatnot. With solar panels reflecting light, I mean, I don't know, there might be some sort of scientific problem there on a large scale. So what I think is that it's possible to shift away from oil, but that I don't know that there's yet another alternative that's necessarily going to be better because we don't have enough knowledge.
Yeah. So like I guess the cap and trade systems that I always tear down because the scientists say let's say 2/3 or whatever 3/4 of the fossil fuels have to stay in the ground. So like I always just say it's not enough, whatever. So one of the benefits I could see from these things is it brings as long as like we can implement them properly, it brings the price of producing oil up, and then it might lead to innovation in other sectors for like how to build stuff without it, right, because like I always compare it to like corn, right? So if you go to the grocery store and like basically anything, like I don't know what the percentage is, but it's over 50% of the products in a grocery store. Basically anything processed has some sort of like corn oil or whatever in it, right? So, but that's because at one point we decided to mass produce corn. It was easy to make, blah blah blah, and now we use it for everything, right? So now oil, whatever, like for a long time it was cheap. It was the thing. It was like the biggest thing. So we started making everything out of plastic, right? So you think like if the price of oil goes up, then maybe like the market will switch and like innovators will be looking at different ways to do stuff, or
it's possible.
Like when it comes down to it, you always need resources, right? You always need resources.
Yeah, there's only certain, like you could probably build a car with other stuff.
Well, they used to. They used to build cars out of steel all the time.
Steel, that's right. Yeah, you can build. Yeah, yeah.
But now the cars, like the electric cars, are like have crazy computers. You got to put batteries in them, so like there's got to be some sort of mix. I guess the big thing would be, like the big thing about renewable is that, like let's say you're running, I don't know, do they have oil plants? Like you know how they run some stuff on gas and some
natural
coal,
gas,
right? So anyways, let's say coal then. If you're building a coal plant, right? So you're using all those resources to build the coal plant or whatever, and then you still have to keep mining coal to feed it, right? If you build a solar panel, sure, you're using those resources for that panel, and then you're getting the power from the sun. You don't have to constantly get a
yeah, that's the point you've constantly made. But like what I'm saying is that I'm not saying there is any problem with that. Like it might be good, but it could maybe, if it's implemented on a really large scale, like it could cause the reflection of solar light in a direction that could like either harm animals like birds, or like maybe reflect too much light out, like because if you think about it, we need a lot of solar panels to power the whole world, right? I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it's going to start taking away room in smaller countries where there's not as much open space. It'll start taking away room from farms, from crops and stuff like that. So you got to be careful. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, there's different in the Netherlands, they have a pilot project, and like they're building streets with solar panels in them.
Okay.
And
That's
like
cool.
I read it when it first came out or whatever, how it worked, and then like some of them even have like a LED underneath lights, so that like to use for lanes, or like let's say here in Timmins, right? Sometimes we have stop signs, sometimes we have whatever. So to like sometimes the lanes change. But I'm just saying, like these have come out now. This is just a pilot project, and so far they're gathering more power than expected. So they're powering more homes on them.
That's good.
So it's cool to see different innovations like that.
I want to go back to the cap and trade system just real quick. For those of you who don't really know how that works, basically, I'm going to use a metaphor. Let's say here in Timmins, the city decided you could only have 10 new hotels in the next 10 years. And so, like, one company can buy all 10 permits to build these hotels, but then they can sell them at whatever price or whatever market price to different companies. Same idea, but with pollution. So you can only pollute so much, and if you're gonna pollute, you have to buy a permit to pollute, and then if you want, you can buy multiple permits, and you can sell them within your industry, depending on need and industry demand.
So was Rachel Notley, the premier elect in Alberta, was she talking about implementing cap and trade, or was it just like different regulation on Alberta?
I haven't read up.
Tax or something.
I haven't read up on exactly what she wanted to do. I know she said she's gonna increase the regulation. She might do it through cap and trade. She might do it otherwise. I'll look into that, and I'll either post links on the YouTube page or on our Twitter account for that for you guys.
Okay, in other election news, just throwing out, the UK elections. I don't know if you guys care or not, but they just elected a majority conservative government.
Well, more on that after this.
Deflategate. The biggest thing to rock football since the Ray Rice incident. I don't know. Where? Okay, so Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, whoever it was, someone on the Pats in a game versus the Colts, it was discovered that their balls were underinflated, which so they have a certain range, like a PSI or whatever, like pounds per square inch, and that's what's supposed to be allowed during the whole game. So they get reviewed by officials, and then in this case they deflate it and use it. So it makes it easier if you have less air. It kind of makes it easier to grip it. I think the game was in rainy conditions too.
It makes it easier to throw it further too.
Easier to throw it, catch it even, right? Like if you've ever caught like a basketball that was partially deflated or whatever, it's easier to grab onto. So the game was a blowout against my Colts, and as much as it was cheating, all that shit, I don't think the Colts would have won the game either way. But anyways, it caused this huge hubbub, this huge uproar in the NFL, and this was during the playoffs. Wow, I'm all over the place. This was during the playoffs, I guess January, December, whatever.
I don't remember.
A few months back.
Whenever NFL playoffs are.
So they beat the Colts and went on to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl. And then now, after this lengthy investigation, like the paper was like 200 pages long or something. Tom Brady was suspended as the quarterback for the Pats for 4 games at the start of the season. The Pats were fined $1 million, and what else? Oh, they lost a few draft picks, like first round draft picks, and 2 equipment guys got fired or suspended. I forget, but I think suspended indefinitely. Anyway, so I don't know. What do you think about it? Was it was it a good punishment? Also, yeah, he got to keep his trophy and everything, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. Sporting scandals. I don't know.
Completely talk about drama for nothing.
Yeah, well, to me, if you think you have to cheat to win, then you don't deserve to win. That's my view on it. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of what's right and what's wrong for punishment. That's up to the NFL to decide. I mean, you can't revoke the trophy. That just goes against every freaking rule in the every unwritten rule in the sporting world. There's probably written rules about it too, but it's definitely an unwritten rule that once you win the trophy, you win the trophy. You can't go back on that decision. So I think that there should be a closer closer watch on the Patriots next year and on those particular things. Apparently the Patriots are known for cheating. So I don't follow the Patriots that much. I can't really elaborate on that.
Yeah, specifically Brady and Belichick. So Belichick's the coach. So it's not the first time, right? So by the way, the allegations came out right after the game, so before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I know that.
But obviously, whatever you do your investigation and make sure it's true. This has happened before, where the opposing team said, "Hey, we think the balls are a bit soft playing against the Pats." Nothing came out of that one, and also they had a scandal where they illegally videotaped other teams' practices or warm ups or something to game plans or whatever. So in that time, the coach was fined, and I think they lost some draft picks as well. But it was just the same tandem of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. So yeah, like I get what you're saying. I also think that I don't know. I guess there's a skeptic in me that thinks they're just the ones that got caught, and that other teams would do whatever, like maybe bend the rules to try and win too.
Weird that they got caught twice, and you don't hear about that with
true.
any other
Well,
NFL team.
Maybe not necessarily that rule,
But
whatever,
still,
yeah.
but like when's the last time you heard of any other NFL team pulling anything like that?
Yeah, that's true. And I would rather the Colts go on. But the one big thing that I heard was just the difference in severity of punishment. All right, so another scandal that hit the NFL last year was Ray Rice. So he knocked his wife out in an elevator, and TMZ put out a video of him dragging her out and showed it to the NFL, and Rice got suspended for 2 games. No fines or anything, but like I don't know if you can find someone for like something they did off the field there, but and then
well, you should have got criminal charges, right?
Once the NFL, I'll get on that in a sec. Once the NFL saw the rest of the video, which actually showed him hit her and everything, he got fined indefinitely. He got released from the Ravens, which was his team. The reason he didn't get criminal charges is because it's America, and the victim would have had to press charges, and she didn't. So she's still with him. She was still doing press conferences with him. They're appealing the league to try and get him back in. But yeah, the big thing is I saw like the argument was like, all right, so Ray Rice initially gets 2 games for hitting his wife in an elevator, and Brady gets $1 million fine and everything else for deflating football. So like,
America,
where are the priorities here in the NFL? That was the biggest, anyways, argument that I've seen about it.
Well, it's kind of a sad note to wrap it up.
So moral of the story:
don't hit your wife in an elevator.
But even worse, don't deflate footballs because the punishment's worse.
No, don't hit your wife in an elevator.
Alright, so UK elections.
Yeah, so UK, that's the United Kingdom. In case you didn't know, that's Britain, Scotland,
and Ireland.
A part of Ireland, right? I think Ireland's split still. There's like a Northern Ireland or something that's not part of the UK. And Wales. Wales is like a region, I guess. Anyways, so they just had an election, elected a majority conservative government.
Which was unexpected.
Yeah, I don't know if it was unexpected because they thought the Conservatives would get another minority or what. Then another just and the like so whatever, that's unexpected. Interesting that in Scotland, who just had a referendum on independence last year in 2014, the vast majority, I don't want to say all because I didn't double check that, but the vast majority of elected MPs are for the SNP, which is the Scottish National Party, and that would, I guess, be the equivalent of our Bloc Québécois.
Yeah.
So basically, that means the issue of Scottish separation
is not that
over.
And there might be some implications there. Some media outlets, Kaiser Report, have been saying that that should be a number one priority for the new government. That the new government shouldn't be concentrating all their efforts on Russia, and should rather be looking at their problems with Scotland and Scottish independence.
Yeah, so there's no Conservative MPs at all on the island of Scotland. So no MPs from the ruling party there. They're not the only ones that aren't too jacked with the Conservatives. There's some pretty sizable demonstrations in London on this weekend just basically protesting the fact that they got a conservative government.
Yeah.
Anti-austerity because this is the conservatives, so they.
Although I've also heard that austerity will end under this government because it was a coalition government before, and that they didn't have all of the power to do what they wanted. So mixed reports. We'll see.
I don't know that much about British politics, but hey, we've been talking about protesting and riots lately, so I figured I'd throw that in. And one last thing about protesting and riots before I bore you guys to death. I don't know. I just it's come to my attention that pepper spray. I've never been sprayed by it, but I heard it's pretty brutal. Is considered a biological weapon
In war.
an illegal biological weapon in war, yet it's that they still use it.
In protests.
Yeah, in like as a or just in Canada in general, mostly in protests in Canada and the USA. They did it in Montreal. There's actually a pretty crazy video of this chick getting it like right in the face in one of the earlier protests like 2 months ago. Anyways, I just thought that's kind of weird that that we're not allowed using it on enemy forces, but it's allowed domestically.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a rule that was passed on by the motherland of the UK.
Yeah, I don't know if they had the pepper spray out this weekend or not, but
We'll have to look into that.
I'm sure if they were allowed, they did.
If you guys are interested in British politics, check it out. Kai's Report's always a good place for that. Russell Brand.
The Trues, yeah, he had his whole election week.
Although some
Followed it.
people say that he lost some credibility.
Well, yeah, it's true, yeah, because he, he had an interview about almost 2 years ago now with this guy called Jeremy Paxman. He's known for like being a pretty hard ass, like grilling you, whatever. And he was asked a question, something about voting, and he said, "Nope, don't vote, never have, blah blah blah." And so he became pretty much like the face of the non-voting public in British, saying they were in Britain, saying they were disenfranchised and all that. Then over last week, he had election week interview the Labour leader Ed Miliband and some members of the Green Party.
Who, by the way, Ed Miliband, that is, got destroyed.
Yeah.
In the election.
Yeah, he resigned as leader of the Labour Party and everything. But so Russell, after this week, said if you live in Brighton, vote for this Green Party. I guess would be the equivalent of Elizabeth May's riding in Canada, where there's actually a chance the Green Party can get elected. If not, vote Labour. It's better than Conservative. So he kind of turned on a dime, and now a lot of people are pissed at him or whatever.
Especially and it's that Labour got destroyed. So I think if Labour would have got more seats or more credibility, because what I heard anyways is like a lot of people in Britain were like, "Oh well, we had Russell Brown on our side and he told us to vote Labour and we voted Labour and still nothing happened." And Russell Brand was more on the spiritual, we can do this kind of election campaigning, even though he's not a candidate, whereas the ruling Conservative Party rules on fear.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Yeah. So and I've seen I watch it, right. So his explanation was he got a lot of angry letters from people saying like one dude was like, well, if the Conservatives can get back into power, they're gonna cut this and cut that, and they were scared. They were just like literally scared of the Conservatives being in power and not being able to or like having actual benefits cut, like for older people, or like this guy was his disabled brother or whatever. So it kind of tugged on his heartstrings or whatever. But yeah, anyways, like we the people, that should be like, it should be more about policy and about bringing people together rather than fear.
Of course, I fully agree with you.
Which is kind of starting to happen here now has at least been happening since Stephen Harper's been the leader of the Conservative Party. he started telling us Justin Trudeau couldn't run the country before Trudeau was even a Liberal leader.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have their like positive propaganda about all the good that the Conservatives do or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not gonna comment on that, but you make a good point. In case you guys are wondering what's going on with C-51, it passed through the House of Commons.
Yeah, so Conservatives and Liberals voted for it, and well, all they needed was a Conservative vote anyway, so
Yeah,
it's passed.
but
It goes up to the Senate now, I guess.
Senate, yes, if it hasn't already went there, and then the Supreme Court. So if it passes the Senate, I have faith in our judicial system that they will stop it in the Supreme Court, because many experts have said that it is unconstitutional, just like many of previous bills by the current government.
They didn't even consult the Privacy Commissioner.
Yeah.
First of all. And this touches like 11 different parts of law. You know, like this has been like an ongoing thing now with these where they call them omnibus bills, where they put like a whole bunch of stuff into one bill and like try and ram it through, right?
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court, like you say, caught all of them. Anyways, that's all we want to say. I think if it does pass through the Supreme Court, we're gonna be talking about more protests.
All right, so we're gonna talk about what's going on in Timmins. First of all, looks like we're getting some new welcome signs.
Yeah, they've been talking about that for a while, eh? They look pretty cool. We'll have to post a link or something to it.
Yeah, they said that they are going to be up by July. They're pretty nice. I'm tweeting about it right now, so you can check it out.
So is this part of Timmins 2020 about like the whole new rebranding to get people to stay and live here or whatever? Just get a better sense of community. That's basically like just make Timmins a better place to be.
That's right. Obviously, like any other projects the city comes up with, there's some opposition. People say they're spending money on signs when they could be spending money on roads. Now, I don't know all the background here, but my guess is that they had some sort of specific funding for these signs for like tourism that they got grants for or something,
like from
the government. My guess, just I mean I'm speculating here, but I'm guessing the city has their priorities straight to a certain extent.
Well, they're under review now, so
by KPMG. Apparently, there's a very long presentation by KPMG at the council meeting last night. Lasted almost 2 hours.
And we're gonna have to go to one of those council meetings, eh?
I followed one on Twitter yesterday. I've retweeted a bunch of tweets. Gentleman, I forget what his name is.
So what was the presentation?
Nick Stewart.
Okay. Does he work for a paper? Or is he just?
He's Nick Stewart. He was Nick Stewart, manager of policy research and communications for the Timmins Chamber of Commerce. I gotta follow him. Oops.
Male cat lady. Views expressed here are entirely mine. Okay, cool. So he works for the chamber, but he does it for himself.
Yeah.
He goes to council, or for us, anyways. Sorry, go on.
Speaking of the chamber, I attended today a very good workshop on using Twitter. Yes, it was at the Holiday Inn Express, and it was very, very interesting on different strategies. There's also going to be another workshop at the beginning of June, the 2nd, I believe, for the very basics of Twitter. So if there's any of you that want to learn how to use Twitter for your organization, just learn the basics of it. Like, check out the Chamber's website. I will likely tweet about it closer to the date so that you can sign up. It's always good. It supports the Chamber, and you can learn a lot about Twitter.
Cool. Hey, Twitter's pretty fun, actually. I just started getting into it.
Speaking of which, follow us on Twitter.
Yeah, at Fortier Bros. Fortier Bros, bro.
Check it out.
Don't put that last bro in there.
Yeah, there's only one bro.
And it's plural. Anyways, you were saying something about KPMG and the what's it called, the review or whatever.
Yeah.
It's I guess that they hired a third party to review operations in the city.
Yes, and apparently they've already found a lot of duplicate services offered by the city, and that's what a big part of it. From what I see on Twitter, that's that's a big part of what the presentation was about. A tweet here from Andrew Audio. Councillors looking pretty weary of the ongoing KPMG presentation.
Hashtag TimCC, hashtag Timmins, hashtag KPMG, hashtag not impressed, hashtag long-winded.
A lot of hashtags. KPMG now Nick Stewart. KPMG now pointing to the fact that he has a non-resident can access free office space internet at Timmins Library. The taxes pay for it. So I guess they're saying that we can make money off the library from outsiders.
Or just put a password on or something, so you need a library card to get into it.
KPMG's Oscar Poloni giving council their first look at the city's core services review.
That's what it's called, core services. Gotcha.
All right.
I'm pointing right now there. This is Twitter, and we're looking at Nick Stewart, hashtag Timmins.
Hashtag
If you ever care to see anything about Timmins, instead of us going on about it, hashtag Timmins.
It's very useful.
I don't even need to have an account. Just go to twitter.com and search hashtag Timmins.
There's a missing teen in Timmins, Ontario. We'll retweet that, although I'll retweet it, but by the time you see it, maybe they'll hopefully they'll have found her. Her name is Danica Dubé, and she's 15. In other Timmins news, CIS basketball university coaches coming to Timmins High. Or Timmins for high performance camp. My bad. Okay. So 5 CIS basketball coaches are coming to Timmins for a high performance camp. Tweet about that. From Super Fortier Bros. Why do I leave the hitch? Oh, somebody almost got hit by a truck, but he had his hitch on. Alright, so that's that. Let's see what's going on this week.
Timmins ON page. Any more unicorn sightings?
I saw something about the unicorn actually. He was on CBC Radio, or not CBC Radio, Radio Canada.
Oh yeah, he's from Ontario, eh?
Yeah.
French guy. Loading.
Yeah, we might. What's going on here? Facebook.
Technical difficulties.
Are
we still on?
What's wrong with Tech Savvy? I heard that one a lot. Okay, we're on the tennis.
Who do you want to win tonight in Game 6 between Montreal Canadiens versus Tampa Bay? Spoiler, it's Tuesday, and we're going to go watch the game soon. So I'm probably go with Habs since they're the only Canadian team left. Who do you want to win?
I don't know. That's a tough one.
Okay.
Just kidding. Go Habs, go. All right. So other than that, 100 new apartments going up.
Oh, I heard about this. They're planning it.
Commercial Avenue. That's right here.
Yeah. It's a school,
At
isn't
Preston
it?
Street.
It's a school. It's Leonard Gauthier. Isn't it? Is this the one?
Oh, the old Leonard
Yeah,
Gauthier?
so they want to convert the school and add 2 buildings
Yeah.
on the property and turn it into apartments.
Huh.
Now, some of the neighbors are opposed to more construction. There's questions about like how much parking will be available and all that, but
Okay.
to me, all in all, more apartments is probably better. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to get an apartment here.
Yeah, did you have a hard time finding this place? Yeah.
No, but apparently I got lucky. and it's expensive. So if there's more apartments,
It'll be cheaper.
it'll be
Yeah.
cheaper.
Like I know my landlord, so like
We
maybe-
still pay more for rent.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I pay. Yeah. I'm just saying it wasn't hard to find it. I'm not saying it's not expensive or whatever.
Yeah.
But in general, in Timmins, it's fairly expensive for our size of
So
city.
most of the complaints from what I've seen so far on this, I did see it earlier. Now that I remember, is that there's not as many parking spaces as there are units. Not everybody drives. It's in a pretty central location, right off Preston there,
I mean,
close
if
to
you don't-
Algonquin.
Yeah, so like they're concerned about on-street parking, but I mean, you're gonna have to think of that if you go get an apartment, because winter you're not allowed parking on the street anyway. So
Yeah. Well, so that's this week in Timmins, Ontario.
Still haven't seen that freaking unicorn, man.
All right, so Ontario passed new sex ed laws.
yeah, Kathleen Wynne, our premier.
Basically, a kid's gonna be learning about sex earlier than before.
They're gonna be actually learning. Like, I don't know if it's because we went to a Catholic school or it just wasn't in the curriculum. They're actually gonna be learning about LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgenders, and just I think more descriptive, like about body parts, you know, and you know, let's say them. Can we say the words? Penis, vaginas, all that, or at an earlier age, from what I understand, like some of it at an earlier age than what we did, anyways.
Well, I mean, I can only speak for myself, and I went to a small Catholic school in the country where there was really not much sex ed. I'm pretty sure I had like one hour session.
Yeah, see, I don't even remember that. I remember one in high school, but yeah.
I don't remember
So,
one in high school.
Anyways, it wasn't anything big. So there's a lot of pissed off parents about it, saying, well, I've heard all kinds of arguments. Some saying like the kids don't need to learn that stuff too young. Some saying that I've looked at from the crazy spectrum that our gay prime minister or gay premier is trying to like brainwash kids into being gay, which isn't even possible. Like, and just like some saying the kids aren't old enough, whatever. I don't know have you heard any other criticisms of it? Like,
Religious.
that shouldn't be in the classroom at all, I guess, even though it
There's
somewhat was.
A lot of Muslim people, maybe not a lot, but some Muslim people have said that it's against their religion to learn about sex that early. I don't know.
I don't know if they'd be able to opt out on a religious basis or not.
Probably depends on if it's actually a religious thing or not, or if it's just a couple of people in that community that are trying to find excuses.
Yeah. So for me, the big thing is like, you know, to me, like in a perfect world, that those conversations should probably happen with your parents first, but it doesn't always happen that way, and we live in the internet age now, and whatever, you can put whatever blocks on your phones or computers, but kids are smarter than us. Like, I'm a web developer, and there's kids that know how to way around computers better than me. You know, like, they'll figure it out, so they can get the information somewhere.
I used to work tech support, and then very often when somebody would call in, they'd pass the phone to their child because their child knew more about computers. So, like, yeah, you gotta teach the kids. I mean,
and like we're starting to learn. Like I'm still learning like about a lot of that stuff. Like, you know, like even just like between like gay and lesbians, and I've learned a lot more. I know a lot more this year than I did last year about transgender people and like that kind of stuff. So it's probably a good thing to get a head start on that, because the hardest time for those people is when they're at school, when they're younger, when they don't completely understand themselves, and when their peers don't understand them. Then like, you know, when you're a kid, like any kind of difference is like an opportunity to tease or whatever. So to me, it's generally a good thing. Yeah, I can't really find many negatives that I would say. Like, I think it brings us in line with most of the provinces. So
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't have much negative to say about that either. Thanks for watching. You can follow us on Twitter at Fortier Bros, and we'll see you next week.
going to watch some hockey.
Hey guys, it's May 14th,